So we're going to dive in today. I wanted to briefly touch on beach homes and wetlands. So I personally am in coastal North Carolina. So most of this part of the state is going to be some kind of wetlands. A lot of people move here and they're like, well, I don't want to live in a flood zone. You're moving to coastal North Carolina. So if you're watching this video and you are in Montana, clearly wetlands are only going to be around like a lake or, any kind of body of water that's coming down from the mountains itself. That's going to be larger. But for this intensive purposes, we're going to worry more about the wetlands that are going to be considered on the East Coast, because that's kind of the area that I'm personally in. So disclaimer, always go back to your state's regulations. Again, I'm in North Carolina, so I don't want to mislead you or take you down a path that's not correct in your specific state. So whenever you start talking about beach homes in particular, each island, if you will, or each area is going to have completely different regulations. Each individual town is going to have different regulations. Closer to here, I'm going to have Emerald Isle. So Emerald Isle, it's the Crystal Coast. So we have Emerald Isle, Atlantic Beach, Salter Path. The rules on that island vastly differ from the rules that you have maybe 3 miles down the ocean in Surf City and Emerald Isle. So again, depending on where you are, reach out to that city and that county and figure out what their rules are. Rules meaning permitting, meaning on the GIS, where exactly are your BE flood zones, your AE flood zones? Where is that magical line where they're going to make you have VE flood insurance on an AE house? So what are all these things? So VE zones are velocity driven water. So if you have a hurricane and you have water coming in, that's going to be a VE flood zone. If you have a property that has a corner of the house, let's say it's 1 pilings in a VE flood zone, the whole entire house has to have VE flood insurance. AE is going to be rising water. Again, very expensive. So VE flood insurance is going to be considerably more expensive compared to AE flood insurance. Both are going to be kind of high. Same scenario lies. If you have one piece of your house that's in a AE flood zone, the whole entire house is going to have AE flood zone insurance. There is a magical line that the government has created in each individual state. You really need to go back and look at your individual websites that they have. So if you're interested in learning more about this, unfortunately, NAR actually does not teach a class or a certification that gets you ready to sell coastal homes. There is a vacation rental, second time home certification, but not necessarily a coastal based on state class that you can take, which I think is an injustice, but hopefully they'll fix that in the near future. So this imaginary line essentially is saying that if your house, so say that I have a home that's on a foundation that is in a VE flood zone and something happens to my house, they're not going to permit me to build another house unless I'm permitted for a VE flood zone, which means I have to have pilings on my house. And pilings are the pieces of wood that make your house come above the ground. So if there are flood coming up or velocity driven water, your house isn't going to get destroyed. I am not, and a disclaimer, I am not the expert on the situation. I have taken one beach class that was provided by 2 agents that were local there in the Surf City area. And it was very interesting to kind of hear them talk about it. Especially when it came to condominium complexes. Each condominium complex is going to have different HOA, different covenants. Some may have master insurance policies. One of the biggest things that you want to make sure is what's their maintenance record on these properties? Have they accurately and really assertively been keeping up with the units. Living on the coast, there's a lot of obviously salt out there. So any metal is going to corrode a lot faster than if you have a house inland. So a lot of the condominiums that are the townhomes that are on the coast of North Carolina, a lot of them you need to check. Some of them have really harsh bylaws, and they are having massive amounts of money that are going to have to be pumped into these properties to get them up to date. So it's just something based on property, based on townhome, based on community. You really make sure you find a local expert that's going to be able to give you the data points that you need, and they understand what it means to buy coastal real estate. And also finding a licensed insurance provider that provides quotes for beach homes. I see a lot of people, having someone in Raleigh. Raleigh is 3 hours away from the coast, do their insurance. If they're not familiar with that area, find someone that's local. Find someone that understands how much it's actually going to cost to rebuild your whole entire beach home, to include the piling, to include every single, bolt. It can be very, very expensive to rebuild a beach home. Another thing, going back to zoning, there are pieces of topsoil island that you can't rebuild on. So again, having a local expert that really understands each piece of the island, each area, each town, the permits, the zoning, the flood zones, it's really important. So for wetlands, so I did take a wetland certificate course. I found it to be very fascinating. Being on the coast of North Carolina, a majority of the coast is some sort of wetlands. I prefer and love, and some people might hate me for this, but I love to give my clients the .gov website where it talks to them about global warming. I want them to see if the water rises 15 feet where their home is going to be. It's the largest investment they are ever going to make in their life. Why would I not let them know that if the water rises 5 feet, their house is going to be in the water? I feel like it's my due diligence as a buyer's agent and as a seller's agent. Hey, by the way, your house is in this flood zone. It's going to be hard to sell based on the price because the house down the street isn't in a flood zone. They're not going to have to carry flood insurance on the property. So going back to wetlands, so originally, and I don't have my timelines right, so I'm not even going to spit them out at you, but originally the government was giving funding to cover up the wetlands. They wanted people to farm, so they were able to come in and destroy the wetlands to create farmlands to obviously help the economy grow, North Carolina coast to grow. And as they kind of saw what it was doing to the environment, what it was doing to the animals, they redacted that. It is the exact opposite now. If you touch a wetland, you're looking at like a $20,000 a day fine. So if your client thinks, okay, I'm going to buy this house in a wetland, I'm going to come in and I'm going to level it out and I'm going to put my house here, think again. So if they do that every single day, depending on the town, depending on, the zoning itself, they're going to get fined a hellacious amount of money and they're going to owe that to the federal government. So knowing and understanding this lot, where is it, what piece of it is in a flood zone, what piece of it has wetlands. You may say, I've had buyers that are like, I want to buy a 5-acre lot and I want to be able to put, A, B, and C on it. I want it agricultural. I want to be able to put a house on it. And when I start showing them lots, and then we start diving in a little bit more, half the lot's in a wetland. I can't build a house on a wetland. So it's out. And so it gets really frustrating if, you have somebody that's looking at land and you keep sending them all these cheap pieces of land, if you will, and they can't build on them. They're really useless pieces of land because then you have to think about, is it going to perk? So if you're watching this video and you're like, what the heck does that mean? Perk is essentially being able to have water to your home on a vacant piece of land. There's lots of land out there that can be for hunting, it can be for farmland, but it cannot be built on because there's no water access. So having a perk test done on a piece of land is super important. Having surveys done so you know where those wetlands are. If you're close to any kind of body of water, river, stream, you really need to know where those water lines lie and where you can build and where you can't. So I've personally been involved with a few different transactions on the coast. One of the biggest things that I have found on the coast of North Carolina is each individual island, or whether you're on the land side of the water, the taxes that you're going to pay is very, very different depending on area. If the county and town does not want more development to happen, your taxes are going to go up. It's going to be higher. So we have an area that is North Topsail. The insurance of the taxes is astronomical. You're looking at more than what your house is valued at for taxes. So I looked at a $900,000 house and they had the house at 1.2 million, and you're looking at $13,000 a year in taxes. And they do that because they don't want more development to happen on that side of the island. Then you go say to Oak Island. Oak Island, half the island is in a flood zone. So it's super phenomenal. The taxes are going to be lower. They want people to come develop there. That's awesome. Again, if you're watching this, I am in North Carolina, so my knowledge base really only lies in North Carolina. If you're in South Carolina, Georgia, or Florida, please reach out to your mentor, your broker in charge, your local board of realtors. Find an expert in your area that really understands what coastal living is, what your rules and regulations are. I can't really express that enough. I'm not certified in this. This is just my personal experience. So I really love to share the knowledge that I know and that I've learned over the past 2 years. It is a never-ending journey in real estate, learning something new every single day. So that's really all I have. It's really a short meeting, to tell you the honest truth. But if you have any questions, if you're in North Carolina specifically, I'm more than happy to help guide you or help put you in contact with somebody that knows more than me. If you're uncomfortable reaching out to your broker in whatever state, there's so many agents that we have here on Team GoGo that are actually able to come in and help you. So look at the Team GoGo map. Go and find either an agent that's Cash for Kingdoms or Team GoGo, whoever it is. We're here to help each other. So at the end of the day, don't feel uncomfortable not knowing something. It's better to really just ask. You would rather ask and be informed and learn something new than ill-advise your client on something that you really don't understand.